Bonjour à tous. Aux Jeux Olympiques, ça s'appelle un faux départ, mais on est éliminé que si on le fait 2 fois de suite, donc j'ai ma seconde chance. Welcome to everyone. We are going to talk about, of course, the Olympics, but big sport events in general, because we are just out of a very full year in France of big events. We had the World Cup of rugby, we had of course, the Olympics. And when we look at the agenda in the next decade, I don't know if we will face the unknown, but at least we face also the noon. And we will have in 26 the World Cup, and that will include Canada and the US and Mexico. In 28, of course, the Olympics in LA. In 30, the World Cup in Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, and in 22, the World Cup in Saudi Arabia. No, 34, and 32, the Olympics in Australia in Brisbane. So a full agenda, and we have here a panel of people who are all involved in this. Regarding their previous experiences or their future experiences. And so let me introduce you to all of them. There is Alexandra Dublanche, who is mayor of adjoint, vice mayor of Sartrouville, and vice president of the Île-de-France area, under the authority of Valérie Pécresse that you have just listened to. And we have then Stephanie Wiggins, who is the CEO of the LA Metro, so she will represent the Los Angeles vision of these events. We have Edgar aussi, who was director for the Olympic Games and Paralympic Games in Paris for RATP. And last but not least, Shelley Carroll, who is in charge of the financial aspects budget in Toronto. If you want to discuss money, that's with her. And so maybe first we could have a first round around. We are not going to always celebrate the Paris Games because we are proud of it, etc., etc. We have had some interesting figures recently about the economic impact of the games. That comes from the French Central Bank. There is the idea that the GDP growth was boosted a little bit by 0.25% thanks to ticket sales and TV rights. To be completely honest, in these things you have had winners and losers. That was a macro vision, but in terms of micro vision, some companies, like for instance Air France, have lost a lot of money, because all the people who were going to be in Paris because they liked Paris realized that it was the worst moment to come, because that would be a problem of security, all the prices were increased, and there will be full of fans of sports. When you are not fan of sports, you go somewhere else, and so it has also drawbacks when you make a focus on something. We have to be realistic on that. But apart from that, the figures are very flattering. We have had approximately 5 billion viewers in terms of audience worldwide. The budget, in terms of budget, we have had, what is interesting, it was not negative. We have had a very small profit, because on a budget of 4.5 billion, there was a profit of 26 million. So it's really cheap, but at least it's green. It's not on the red as many times in the past. 12 million tickets were sold, and so that's some impressive figures. But apart from that, maybe can ask the panel their quick impression on these Olympics. What for them was the key aspects? Maybe the best surprise or the best problems. Starting with you, Alexandra.
Yes, hello everyone. So yeah, the Olympics were a great success, even if the French for months and months anticipated that it would be a disaster, which was very difficult for actors like transportation networks and us as a region, because we had the responsibility, especially of the transportation for this. I think for us, and I'm here also as the president of Choose Paris Region, which is the promotion agency of the Paris region. For us, it was very important. First, it was the first. It was the first Olympics with the first carbon neutral Olympics, and the transportation played a big role in it, because every site was accessible with 100% accessible with public transportation, and so I think to succeed in such events, you have to have one unique thing, and perhaps it was this also, the fact that we could reuse the sites, like there were only 4 new sites. And also what was important for us as a promotion agency, it was that we worked a lot on the economic legacy of the games. So yeah, you talked about Air France, but I think, and I hope Air France will be very happy the next months when many people plan to come to Paris, when they saw all the beautiful images on TVs of all the locations, all the venues, and that's what we hope for also all our touristic industry. And we knew that during the Olympics, you always have like a little bit less tourists, not the same kind of tourists that don't go to the restaurants, for instance. So, but in the next months, this would be. When you think that Emily in Paris brings us so many tourists, you can think that the Olympics with the images will do better. And so, and what we do now is, it's not done when the Olympics are over. It continues. We work a lot, as you heard Valérie Pécresse. We just came back from the US. We work. We went to Singapore, Emirates, and India recently. Not to talk only about the Olympics, but to try. It was also an occasion for us to show the world that we are not only the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower, which we are very proud of, but we are also a land of tech, of industry, and to showcase to the world all the innovations that happens here in the Paris region in terms of AI, quantum, and so on. So it's not over when it's over.
Stephanie, you were there,
yes.
Weren't you? Yeah.
Yes, it was spectacular. I think in terms of an impression, you talked about the immediate economic net surplus, but as Alison shared, it's the lifetime value of not only the reputation and image of Paris for the world, but what it did for the Olympics and the Paralympics coming out of COVID, because it really was the first post-COVID games. It was outstanding transportation, accessibility was flawless, and I really think it showcased how sports and global sports brings everybody together. And it really helped lift up sustainability goals, transportation goals, economic development goals. And that's why we're excited to learn from Paris, but also glad that we have global events coming up like World Cup and the games for Los Angeles that we can also learn and grow from. But it was absolutely spectacular.
Okay, Edgar, without going into details about the transportation issue, we will discuss that later, but just a global impression.
Well, it was really a big adventure, and the theme of this conference is confronting the unknown. So we tried not to be too much in the unknown. We try to gain experience, and for this, the Rugby World Cup was a test just before the games, so we could get experience from it, very useful experience. And RATP, it's not working only in Paris region. We are working in 15 different countries, and we operate the metro in Qatar. In Qatar, in 2022, there was the FIFA World Cup. So we got the experience of this big sporting event, and all the methods that were used over there for passenger flow management, we reused it in Paris. So we used this experience for the games, and we will be happy to share it for the FIFA World Cup in Morocco, in 2030, or in Saudi Arabia in 2034, where we operate the metro as well. So it's to make sure these kind of events are a success, rely on experience and not to be too much in the unknown, and rely with other partners like Paris region and our transport authority, Île-de-France Mobilité, with whom we did really a great team job.
Okay. Shelley, were you in Paris?
I was not in Paris.
Have you been in the previous World Cup?
Canada.
Have you been in the previous World Cup?
No, where our touch point, you learn from other events, was holding a Pan Am Games. Although more recently, because of the added security that goes with it, we feel like our rehearsal for the World Cup was improbably having Taylor Swift in our town for 6 days. It's sort of equated to how we will handle security for 6 World Cup games. But watching Paris was it was hard to separate my personal impression. It was stress-inducing on a personal level because it brought home the multifaceted impact of a World Games like this. We're very focused on the nuts and bolts of making sure the soccer venue is ready, making sure the mobility around it is ready. But the Paris Games was very successful in bringing home the cultural impact, and that it has to be showcased, that it is an opportunity not just to say, guess what, we are a football town. It's also an opportunity to showcase things that people don't know about the city of Toronto. They know we're the big city in Canada, but there are so many facets to it that you have an opportunity that you have to realize. Just as you were saying, we're not just the Louvre and the Eiffel Tower. We're just now realizing as we head into 2025, we got to plan that aspect of this event out throughout the year of 2025. It's not just the physical holding of the actual 6 games.
So keep the floor, Shelley. From your window, that was okay. We have had this view about the past and the recent past, but from your window, what are the key challenges that you are prepared that you have in mind to face for the event?
Well, we're just now getting to the point where the community is beginning to embrace it. It's very hard to embark on a bid for a sporting event when you don't really know how the community feels about that. And so when you were talking earlier about the community really thinking, oh, this will be a disaster, and armchair complaining about it all the way until the moment, and then in the moment they all fell in love with what was happening in their own city. We're very much looking forward to that, but these have been such challenging times. We got the bid to be a part of the World Cup just before the advent of the pandemic, and then during the pandemic it became, how can we possibly do this? How can we back out of this? Why are we doing this thing? And so you have to bring the community along with you. And we're just now beginning to talk about the plans and the preparations and what can happen. That it's not just a venue if you have a ticket, that there will be a fan fest, there will be cultural hotspots, that there will be an animation of the entire city. And that's well worth it because we all need it. It's the tonic we all need. And we're just now beginning to realize that really the year of 2025, the year preceding the games, has to be about marketing the potential of this to the locals so that they become a part of the excitement we then need to portray to the world. And so that's something that all of council has to engage in. Really, all 3 orders of government should be engaging in. And we're just now opening up that conversation to say a mayor can talk about how wonderful it's going to be to have the games here, but so too must a premier. and a prime minister, and those roles often change. The person who placed the bid or the prime minister who agreed to his portion of the funding may not be the prime minister at the time. So there's a constant monitoring of who are the leaders and players in this. Do they have the same relationships with the private sector partners? How do we get those all in place in time so that whomever are the players as you approach the time, they are cheerleaders just as those who placed the bid were. And that's the work that we're going to have to really double down on in 25.
Thank you. And it's remarkable to see that the person in charge of the budget, when asked what is the priority, he answers in terms of culture and leadership. We have to say that there will be general election in Canada soon, and so that will maybe change some heads.
I didn't talk about the money because I have that all in hand.
Edgar, okay, what do you think? I mean, I don't know if you have already some activity in the future events that we just mentioned, but on your experience of Paris, globally everybody is satisfied, but what could have been improved? What do you think will be the big, what will be at stake in the future in this issue about transportation, in this big, in the new events coming?
Well, in organizing such events, what's really important is what you leave behind, the legacy after the games or after the sporting events. So just maybe a few examples to give you concrete ideas which may inspire for next future events. What we have done here in Paris was based on using our transport system to the maximum of its capacity, even on old infrastructure, even with old trains, even with the staff that we have and its organization that we needed to move, to change, to be able to deal with the event. And with the changes that it brought a lot of innovation. For instance, Alexandra was talking about AI. We used AI during the games. We used AI for translation, translation on tablets with apps for our staff. It was specially developed for the games, and now it's a legacy for our staff and for welcoming the tourists in Paris. We used AI with security cameras in Paris, together with the police, and in order to try to catch some events that would need the help of the police or the help of our staff. We improved accessibility for deaf people or blind people, etc. And so the games brought a lot of improvement for the daily service. And of course, trying to make the games a success. It's obvious we needed to do it, but what's really important is what we leave afterwards for the daily service that we need to offer. And all these big sporting events will leave something afterwards, and that's you have to keep in mind for what you are doing during the preparation. It's what will be left afterwards.
So given that experience, what do you have in mind for next Olympics? What do you think? What is in your map, in your roadmap to cope with the issues of such a big event?
Well, it's a big challenge for Los Angeles. Unlike Paris, who has 100 years ahead of us on the rail system, given that transportation is so critical to the success of a global event, whether it's the Games or the World Cup. And we are in the middle of building our rail revolution right now as we speak. So we have the challenge of building out the rail network. We have to add more rail lines before 2028. And even with that, we won't be able to match Paris. We believe we need to borrow almost 3,000 buses to help move people around. Our system today in Los Angeles is the second largest in the United States. But that means I only have about 2,000 buses in my fleet. I believe Paris has 10,000 buses. So it's a big difference in how we're going to move people around. But what we know we want to try to emulate, what RATP did so well, and Ile Mobility as the authority, is it was the feeling you had. It was so easy to move around the city and get to venues and get to cultural locations. We want to emulate that, and that's what we're working on. And so we want to make sure people have that positive experience, which is a challenge in Los Angeles because the venues are going to be spread out throughout Southern California, not so much like they were in Paris, where most of them were in the city. And so that makes it a challenge for us as well. So we're going to be in preparation for that roadmap, hopefully learning from experts like RATP and others, making sure we can leverage technology on making it easier for people to move around, and trying to learn from the best around the world in terms of how to host these global events. And so we feel like it is an opportunity to be with Toronto and others in hosting the World Cup in 2026 as kind of a practice, even though that's a global event on its own, and in many ways very different, but it does give us a chance to test out some innovations that we definitely know we want for the Games. We can test them out earlier in 26.
One of the big innovations of the Paris Olympic Games was the fact that the Games were outdoor for many events, for the opening ceremony, of course, but also for many of the events in some places, iconic places which were transformed. Has this given some ideas for Los Angeles to do something like that? And what are you involved in the discussion about to do it? Because of course mobility is a key issue on this kind of decisions.
Sure, where Metro is glad to partner with LA28, which is the host organizing committee. They're responsible for the venue locations, and not all the venues have been finalized yet, but there's no doubt that Paris set a high bar with the iconic open outside venues, and it's very creative, very innovative, and so we'll see what Los Angeles has in store, but you definitely have set something that we can aspire to.
Alexandra, thinking back about Paris, what finally was your best surprise, and sometimes what were the real difficulties you have been obliged to deal with?
So first I want to say about the change of minister and so on, we had no government back then, and we managed to do the Olympics. So this was this could have been a challenge. In the end, we see the strength of the state, and it happened.
A change of government. We had no government, so
yeah, we had no government for Notre Dame and no government for the Olympics. But anyway. I would like to come back to what my colleague said. Yeah, the legacy is super important. I would say even more in France, to show Parisians, French people that yes, it's a chance to host the Olympics. So we engage them through the volunteers. I think if you were there for the Olympics, you saw the great job of the volunteers, and so that everybody was really happy to host these games. And for us, perhaps the challenge was also Paris region is always seen as a very rich region, and it's the case. The president said it earlier. If we were a state, we would be the sixth one in the European Union. We are the first economic region of Europe in terms of GDP, but we are very diverse. And so for us, the social impact was very important. And so I think what was great is that 80% of the funds went directly to Seine-Saint-Denis, which is one of the poorest area in France. And so I think it was important to show people we care about everybody, of course. And so 80% of investment, the Olympic Village was there, which was not center of Paris. The new sport infrastructure were more there. We built new swimming pools and so on. We also engaged, so Paris region, it's more than 1,000 cities. Paris is one of them, 2 million inhabitants, but globally we have 12 million inhabitants. And so it was also to engage all these cities that do not host the games. And so we helped them financially to organize events and so on. So this was, I think for us, this was also, of course, that everything went well and transportation, it was very important, but also this social impact of the games. And also what we leave, there is a tangible legacy and intangible legacy. The tangible legacy is transportation. We are doubling right now the Parisian metro. It's huge, and some of it got accelerated, I would say, thanks to the games, like the connection to the airport. The other one will come soon, and but right now we are really connecting all the suburbs, and some lines really. 6 months before the games, we inaugurated a station, a metro station every week, I would say. So, and thanks to the games, some norms, some constraints just disappeared. So this was great. We would like it to continue. And also legacy in terms of housing. Like the Olympic Village, it will transform in 3,000 housing units. And also intangible, as I said earlier, all the economic thing, because we are, as I said, seen as a very big cultural city and region, but we want to show that there is innovation, there is tech, there is industry in the Paris region. By the way, it's also 75% agricultural and forests. You don't think about it when you see Paris region, but actually it is. So yeah, this tangible and intangible legacy, we worked a lot on it. And the biggest challenge, that everything would work together. Transportation was our biggest stress with security. And so, but we worked a lot, all the actors, public, private, together, to train people, like for security jobs. And also, important thing, once the Olympics are over, to think that these people need a job. And so we are working also with the state on this aspect to find a long-term job for them, based on what sorry, I'm coming back from the US. I'm a little bit tired. But all that their qualities can be reused in other jobs. And so this is also important.
Okay. I would like to come back about the infrastructure issues. For Paris, we have not had to build a new stadium, because we built the stadium when we wanted to have the Olympics 20 years before, and that we can use it. So in fact, we have had more. I mean, we had structural expenses for new real estate places. I mean, a new area at the north of Paris, etc. But so we have had in the past in the Olympics good and bad experiences. I remember, correct me if I am wrong, that Los Angeles previously was the only games which was profitable at the end. When Canada has not the same track record. It was still 20 years later, people were crying about the legacy of in Montreal of the game. So, are you going to have on your both cities big new structures for these events, or are you just going to use them as they are?
Well, do you know what? I think you're touching on the challenge going forward with these events. I mean, we just had the conversation about the amount of money that municipalities, that nations have to spend just on climate change and sustainability, the adaptation of it all. And it kind of flies in the face of, stop, we're just going to create whatever legacy comes from this event. We're going to build a new aquatic center. We're going to build a new stadium. when you have such housing and infrastructure needs. And I think it's why you see bids coming from. We already had the biggest football stadium in the country, and we're extending its seating capacity and enhancing it with the partnership with the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the entity that runs our football club. They're very much partnering in this because they'll use it afterwards. But you see Los Angeles bidding again on the games. Alexandra's description of the amount of sharing in the financial burden that they had to do with other municipalities means that maybe that's why we see FIFA going to multi-city events, because it's getting harder and harder for one city to say we're going to stop what is already our pressing agenda for sustainability and deal with this event, because it really does consume a large part of your operations. For a decade, you do nothing but worry about whether or not you'll be able to pull off this event on time, and you start to gear your infrastructure design to that, whether or not that's the best legacy or not. And so I think what we see, and we're going to see a lot of in the future, is if you've had a previous success, we're capitalizing on our football club investment and also some of the legacy pieces and housing pieces from our Pan Am Games in 2016. Los Angeles had a very successful Summer Olympics. What seems like in the life of a city not too long ago, which really started the residents understanding your rail transit ambition and beginning to actually ride it. And so it's almost, we're narrowing the pool of cities that can actually manage this unless we start to reimagine how we do them. And it's possible that multi-city events are the only way forward, because then you can spread out the legacy in a way that also meets your other goals.
Stephanie, same question.
Sure. So I think it was a critical part of our bid for the games that they were going to be no-build games. No-build meaning no new venues. Yeah. And I think that was really important because it uplifted sustainability, and the IOC also bought into that. And of course, Paris has just taken it to another level of sustainability. But that's foundational for the games, that we're using largely either venues that were also there in '84, and then new venues that have just been built just for community and they weren't built for the games. We want the games to benefit, but we're not building anything new for the games.
Yeah, I just want to add something that was also sometimes you have to take unpopular decisions. I remember we announced that we would increase the price of the metro ticket, and we told people you need to buy it in advance, and to French people, and it was a mess. We were like criticized and so on. And now what we see is that we are a balanced budget, so now it's really, okay, my Navigo pass or my transportation pass won't increase. That's great. But I remember at that time, it was really hard. So sometimes you have to take those decisions. They are good because you don't want to leave that kind of legacy to the people living here. So
you have mentioned, some of you, the issue of security, which obviously is a key issue. In Paris, we have accepted a lot of control. There was red zone, blue zone, whatever zone. There was a lot of police, which had all the huge proportion of the national security system. We have asked for other police to come too. I mean, it was really something, but it was accepted because we live here with in mind the idea that there was a risk of terrorist attack, etc. A lot of people said that the opening it was impossible to control really all over the Seine River, each window, whatever you can. It was a risk, and the risk was worth to be taken, but still, okay. But that was in France. That was in the situation, in the geopolitical situation of France, with evaluation of that risk. What is your mindset in view of these big events? I mean, do you think that you are going to have the same kind of very strong control? Will it be different given the circumstances, given the immigration environment, etc., etc.? And so how, for you, are you going to address that issue?
Do you want to go first?
It is an issue. Our national government actually will be in charge of the security posture for the games. But from a transportation perspective, first, as an observer for the Paris Games, I noted that the easiest way to move around was on public transport. So you really didn't have to deal with a lot of those security issues in that vein. And so our focus is making sure we work closely with our security partners and the host cities so that we can understand the impact of those security zones on the metro. There's no doubt that we live in a global environment. There'll be geopolitical issues in 28, just like there were in 2024. But again, hats off to Paris, because it just seems seamless to someone who was a visitor, knowing what was going on in our country at that time.
We're actually going to take this as an opportunity when the police begin their operations. We're going to use the local police service. The National Police Service, the RCMP, may at the last minute come and help with the dignitary protections. But we're following the FIFA handbook, as they call it, and using local police services, but enhancing their ability to deal with it. We're already hiring and recruiting new officers the last 2 years and then next year, so that it won't all just be overtime. There'll be a whole new fleet of officers, and we need them going forward because of the rate of growth in the city of Toronto, quite apart from the games. But it is also, we're taking it as an opportunity to rebuild trust of the police service. That's been a challenge throughout, I think, globally, but particularly in North America, dating back to the summer of 2020 and the murder of George Floyd. There's been a real challenge in trust in local police services. And we sort of tested it out. This is an opportunity where just the movement of people is such that people will know as they're traveling through this event, you really need the police in this moment. And so we sort of tested it out. We needed a lot of police in the area of our Taylor Swift event recently. But what we did was send out, we got as many women officers as we could together. And while they were patrolling the event, they were also handing out the Taylor Swift bracelets to all the tourists and little girls running everywhere, and actually stopping and talking to them. You can actually look at it on Instagram, talking to them about this is a career for women. And they just saw it as a great recruitment opportunity. But what it turned into was people stopping to say, this is amazing. You're here, and I'm glad you're here. But to use it as a different way of interacting with us. People were stopping to remark on that because they were so amazed at it. And we talked about it after. As one of my other roles, I have too many roles that the city is sitting on the police services board, that has to be the goal at FIFA as well. There are communities that will be animated as part of the games. We too have a strategy for some of the more struggling communities to be animated with culture events and such, and FIFA ambassador events to really bring opportunity to those youth. But we also have to secure those areas. As soon as it's a FIFA event, there'll have to be policing there. But can you use it as a positive moment with police and build some trust while you're at it? You're going to spend the money anyway. Every day will be tens of millions more than that day would be ordinarily. So you're going to be spending the money and providing the extra police. Let's also use this as a moment to actually meet some of their strategic plan, which is to constantly rebuild trust in the community.
Stephanie, one of the also maybe innovation in the Paris game was the light put on the Paralympics, and so what do What is your views on that? And of course, it has also some impact about the transportation of this community. But basically, do you think that this will increase the mediatization, the spot put on the Paralympics in Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Both personally and professionally, the biggest impact I had this summer being in Paris for both the Olympics and the Paralympics was the Paralympics. Just experiencing that was a first for me. And really getting to see how Paris really embraced it, the inclusivity, both in the venues, at the fan sites or the live sites as well. The Paralympics was different than the Olympics. And so while in 2028, Los Angeles will be hosting its third Olympics, it will be the first time that it's ever hosted a Paralympics. And when we talk about legacy, and particularly in transportation and infrastructure, before the Paris Games, I thought Metro's roadmap for legacy was the significant infrastructure investment. We're investing over $20 billion in new rail lines, connections to the airport in time for the Games. We thought that would be enough in improving accessibility to and growing the network to create a legacy opportunity. But the Paralympics actually helped me understand the importance of universal design. And we have to prepare for the Olympics like we prepare for the Paralympics, and not presume that whatever you do for the Olympics will work for the Paralympics. For us at Metro now, to truly have legacy, to truly try to reach that, we call it a moonshot goal for Metro to be the first choice of transportation, we have to lead with universal design. We have regulations at the national level over accessibility. The Paralympics experience in Paris helped me understand that we've been using our regulations as a ceiling instead of a floor. And if we really design our system so that everyone can use it, whether they are physically abled, they may have an invisible disability, they may have reduced mobility, and we take ownership for their entire journey, that will be legacy. And the scope and scale of the 2028 Games, given that we're going to be on a world stage, is the opportunity. So it's been transformational, the Paralympics experience. I really think that's where we're going to get true legacy in supporting both the World Cup and 2028. So I'm just excited about it because it is ushered in a whole culture change at Metro in terms of how we look at delivering this transformational mobility experience for 2028 and optimize it in an incredible way.
We have less than 2 minutes before the end of this thing. I would like to ask you a last question. It's about the image that you want, what you expect from to remember from the future Olympic Games. And this is a question for you, but also for everyone. We in France have put impact on culture and history in the opening, and we have asked for some stars to join and we have been on the other side of the Atlantic. We have found Lady Gaga, we have found Celine Dion, and Tom Cruise. So I am not asking you who we are going to have, but who we would like to have to symbolize the games, and what we, as an expert of the thing, you would like to see in the show. First, you.
Well, you know, at the closing ceremonies of the Olympics, we started with Tom Cruise to let you know, I believe LA 28's letting you know that Hollywood and entertainment is what you can definitely expect. They have exciting ideas, so I don't know all that's planned, but I think Snoop Dogg was kind of very popular here in Paris, so he's definitely got to be there in 2028.
But we will have some Europeans too, I guess.
Absolutely. Oh, Europeans. Oh, of course. Absolutely. First of all, there are a lot of European celebrities. And you know, we really enjoyed watching the France men's basketball get through the journey for the Olympics. And so there'll be rematches and a lot going on.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to the panel for this discussion.